Hello everyone, and welcome back to Daily Dose of English. I'm Tom, and I'm absolutely delighted you've joined me today for another English learning adventure. Today, we're going to explore something really important: how to express your opinions and preferences in English. How to express your opinions and preferences in English. Now you repeat. You know, being able to share what you think and what you like is one of the most useful skills in any language. Being able to share what you think and what you like is one of the most useful skills in any language. Now you repeat. Think about it. Every single day you have opinions about the weather, about food, about movies, about your work. Think about it. Every single day you have opinions. Now you repeat. But here's the thing. Many English learners feel nervous about sharing their thoughts. But here's the thing. Many learners feel nervous. Now you repeat. They worry about making mistakes or sounding rude. They worry about making mistakes. Now you repeat. Well, today I'm going to change all of that. Today I'm going to change all of that. Now you repeat. By the end of this lesson, you'll know exactly how to say what you think, in a polite, natural way. You'll know exactly how to say what you think. Now you repeat. We'll cover everything from simple preferences like I like coffee to more complex opinions like koam. In my opinion, learning languages opens doors. We'll cover everything from simple preferences. Now you repeat. To more complex opinions. Now you repeat. And don't worry, I'll speak slowly and clearly so you can shadow along with me. I'll speak slowly and clearly. Now you repeat. Remember, shadowing means you listen to me, then repeat exactly what I say. Shadowing means you listen to me, then repeat. Now you repeat. This helps your brain get used to English sounds and rhythm. This helps your brain get used to English sounds. Now you repeat. We'll also practice real conversations, build useful phrases, and I'll share some cultural tips about how English speakers express opinions. We'll also practice real conversations. Now you repeat. You know, in some cultures, people are very direct about their opinions. In some cultures, people are very direct. Now you repeat. In English-speaking countries, we often use softer language to sound polite and respectful. We often use softer language to sound polite. Now you repeat. Don't worry though. I'll teach you exactly how to do this naturally. I'll teach you exactly how to do this naturally. Now you repeat. So grab a cup of tea or coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's lesson. So grab a cup of tea or coffee. Now you repeat. Get comfortable. Now you repeat. And let's dive into today's lesson. Now you repeat. Are you ready? Let's begin. Main lesson, basic preferences. Let's start with the basics, expressing simple preferences about things you like and don't like. Let's start with the basics. Now you repeat. The most common way to share preferences is using I like and I don't like. The most common way is using I like. Now you repeat. And I don't like. Now you repeat. Let's practice some examples together. I like chocolate. This means chocolate makes you happy. I like chocolate. I like chocolate. Now you repeat. I don't like spicy food. This means spicy food is not good for you. I don't like spicy food. I don't like spicy food. Now you repeat. I love rainy days. Love is stronger than like. I love rainy days. I love rainy days. Now you repeat. I hate waiting in line. Hate is very strong. Use it carefully. I hate waiting in line. I hate waiting in line. Now you repeat. Now let's learn some more polite ways to express preferences. Let's learn some more polite ways. Now you repeat. Instead of just I don't like, we can say I'm not a big fan of. Instead of I don't like, we can say I'm not a big fan of. Now you repeat. For example, I'm not a big fan of horror movies. This sounds more polite than I hate horror movies. I'm not a big fan of horror movies. I'm not a big fan of horror movies. Now you repeat. We can also say, it's not really my thing. We can also say, it's not really my thing. Now you repeat. For example, basketball. It's not really my thing. This is very natural and casual. Basketball. It's not really my thing. Basketball. It's not really my thing. Now you repeat. Another useful phrase is I prefer. Another useful phrase is I prefer. Now you repeat. I prefer tea to coffee. This means you like tea more than coffee. I prefer tea to coffee. I prefer tea to coffee. Now you repeat. I prefer staying home to going out. This compares two activities. I prefer staying home to going out. I prefer staying home to going out. Now you repeat. Let's practice with different topics. Food preferences first. I love Italian food. I love Italian food. Now you repeat. I can't stand sushi. Can't stand means really dislike. I can't stand sushi. I can't stand sushi. Now you repeat. I'm crazy about pizza. Crazy about means love very much. I'm crazy about pizza. I'm crazy about pizza. Now you repeat. Sweet food isn't my cup of tea. This is a British expression meaning not my preference. Sweet food isn't my cup of tea. Sweet food isn't my cup of tea. Now you repeat. Now let's talk about activities and hobbies. I enjoy reading books. Enjoy is polite and positive. I enjoy reading books. I enjoy reading books. Now you repeat. I find dancing relaxing. Find plus adjective is very useful. I find dancing relaxing. I find dancing relaxing. Now you repeat. Swimming bores me. Bores me means it's not interesting. Swimming bores me. Swimming bores me. Now you repeat. I'm passionate about photography. Passionate about shows strong interest. I'm passionate about photography. I'm passionate about photography. Now you repeat. Let's practice entertainment preferences. I'm into science fiction movies. Into means interested in. I'm into science fiction movies. I'm into science fiction movies. Now you repeat. Reality TV shows turn me off. Turn me off means they're unappealing. Reality TV shows turn me off. Reality TV shows turn me off. Now you repeat. I have a soft spot for romantic comedies. Have a soft spot for means like despite not admitting it. I have a soft spot for romantic comedies. I have a soft spot for romantic comedies. Now you repeat. Classical music grows on me. Grows on me means I like it more over time. Classical music grows on me. Classical music grows on me. Now you repeat. Here's a cultural tip. English speakers often explain their preferences. English speakers often explain their preferences. Now you repeat. For example, I love hiking because it's peaceful. I love hiking because it's peaceful. Now you repeat. I don't like crowded places because they make me anxious. I don't like crowded places because they make me anxious. Now you repeat. This makes your English sound more natural and gives people a chance to connect with you. This makes your English sound more natural. Now you repeat. Main lesson. Expressing opinions. Now let's move from preferences to opinions. Preferences are about what you like. Now let's move from preferences to opinions. Now you repeat. Opinions are what you think about situations, ideas, or issues. Opinions are what you think about situations. Now you repeat. In English, we have many polite ways to share our thoughts without sounding too strong or rude. We have many polite ways to share our thoughts. Now you repeat. Let's start with the most common opinion phrases. In my opinion. This is formal and polite. In my opinion. In my opinion. Now you repeat. I think. This is the most common and natural. I think. I think. Now you repeat. I believe. This is slightly stronger than I think. I believe. I believe. Now you repeat. From my point of view, this is formal. From my point of view. From my point of view. Now you repeat. Let's practice with complete sentences. In my opinion, learning English is important for career success. In my opinion, learning English is important. Now you repeat. I think technology makes life easier. I think technology makes life easier. Now you repeat. I believe exercise is essential for health. I believe exercise is essential for health. Now you repeat. From my point of view, travel broadens the mind. From my point of view, travel broadens the mind. Now you repeat. Now let's learn how to express uncertainty in our opinions. Sometimes we're not completely sure. Let's learn how to express uncertainty. Now you repeat. I'm not sure, but I think. Shows you're not certain. I'm not sure, but I think. I'm not sure, but I think. Now you repeat. It seems to me that. Shows your impression. It seems to me that. It seems to me that. Now you repeat. I have a feeling that. Shows intuition. I have a feeling that. I have a feeling that. Now you repeat. I could be wrong, but. Shows humility. I could be wrong, but. I could be wrong, but. Now you repeat. Let's use these in context. I'm not sure, but I think the weather will improve tomorrow. I'm not sure, but I think the weather will improve. Now you repeat. It seems to me that young people are more tech savvy today. It seems to me that young people are more tech savvy. Now you repeat. I have a feeling that this project will be successful. I have a feeling that this project will be successful. Now you repeat. I could be wrong, but I think the meeting is at 3 p.m. I could be wrong, but I think the meeting is at 3 p.m. Now you repeat. Here's something important. We often use softening words to make our opinions less direct. We often use softening words. Now you repeat. These words are probably, maybe, perhaps, possibly, likely. These words are probably, maybe, perhaps. Now you repeat. Let's see how they work. Social media probably affects how young people communicate. Social media probably affects communication. Now you repeat. This solution might work for our problem. This solution might work. Now you repeat. Perhaps we should consider other options. Perhaps we should consider other options. Now you repeat. It's possibly the best approach we have. It's possibly the best approach. Now you repeat. Now let's practice agreeing and disagreeing with opinions. This is very important for conversations. Let's practice agreeing and disagreeing. Now you repeat. Ways to agree. I totally agree. Strong agreement. I totally agree. I totally agree. Now you repeat. That's exactly what I think. Complete agreement. That's exactly what I think. That's exactly what I think. Now you repeat. You're absolutely right. Strong support. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Now you repeat. I couldn't agree more. Maximum agreement. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Now you repeat. Ways to politely disagree. I see what you mean, but polite disagreement starter. I see what you mean, but I see what you mean, but. Now you repeat. I'm not sure I agree with that. Soft disagreement. I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm not sure I agree with that. Now you repeat. That's an interesting point, however. Academic disagreement. That's an interesting point, however. That's an interesting point, however. Now you repeat. I have a different perspective. Shows alternative view. I have a different perspective. I have a different perspective. Now you repeat. Let's practice these in mini conversations. Person A. I think social media is bad for society. Person B. I see what you mean, but I think it also connects people globally. I see what you mean, but I think it also connects people. Now you repeat. Person A. Online learning is as effective as classroom learning. Person B. That's an interesting point. However, I believe face-to-face interaction is irreplaceable. I believe face-to-face interaction is irreplaceable. Now you repeat. Here's a cultural note. In English-speaking cultures, it's normal to have different opinions. In English-speaking cultures, it's normal to have different opinions. Now you repeat. The key is to be respectful and listen to others. The key is to be respectful and listen. Now you repeat. We often say, let's agree to disagree when we can't reach agreement. We often say, let's agree to disagree. Now you repeat. Let's practice expressing opinions on common topics. About work, I think flexible working hours improve productivity. I think flexible working hours improve productivity. Now you repeat. About education. In my opinion, practical skills are as important as academic knowledge. In my opinion, practical skills are important. Now you repeat. About technology. I believe smartphones have changed how we communicate forever. I believe smartphones have changed communication. Now you repeat. About travel. From my perspective, travelling young gives you a broader worldview. From my perspective, travelling young gives you broader views. Now you repeat. Practice section. Conversation drills. Now it's time to put everything together in real conversations. Now it's time to put everything together. Now you repeat. I'm going to give you different scenarios and we'll practice expressing preferences and opinions naturally. We'll practice expressing preferences and opinions naturally. Now you repeat. Scenario 1. At a restaurant. Let's imagine you're at a restaurant with a friend choosing what to eat. You're at a restaurant with a friend. Now you repeat. Friend. What do you feel like eating? You. I'm in the mood for something light. I'm in the mood for something light. Now you repeat. Friend. How about pasta? You. Pasta sounds good, but I prefer seafood today. I prefer seafood today. Now you repeat. Friend. What about the grilled salmon? You. That looks perfect. I love how they prepare fish here. I love how they prepare fish here. Now you repeat. Let's practice some useful restaurant phrases. I'm craving something spicy. Craving means wanting strongly. I'm craving something spicy. I'm craving something spicy. Now you repeat. I'm not in the mood for heavy food. Not in the mood for shows current preference. I'm not in the mood for heavy food. I'm not in the mood for heavy food. Now you repeat. That dish doesn't appeal to me. Doesn't appeal to me means not attractive. That dish doesn't appeal to me. That dish doesn't appeal to me. Now you repeat, I have a weakness for chocolate desserts. Have a weakness for means can't resist. I have a weakness for chocolate desserts. I have a weakness for chocolate desserts. Now you repeat. Scenario 2. Discussing weekend plans. Let's practice talking about activities and making plans. Let's practice talking about activities. Now you repeat. Friend, what should we do this weekend? You. I feel like doing something outdoors. I feel like doing something outdoors. Now you repeat. Friend, how about going to the beach? You. The beach sounds nice, but I think it might be too crowded. I think it might be too crowded. Now you repeat. Friend, what about hiking? You. I'm all for hiking. It's exactly what I need. I'm all for hiking. Now you repeat. More useful phrases for plans. I'd rather stay in tonight. I'd rather shows preference. I'd rather stay in tonight. I'd rather stay in tonight. Now you repeat. I'm up for anything. Up for means willing to do. I'm up for anything. I'm up for anything. Now you repeat. That doesn't really interest me. Polite way to decline. That doesn't really interest me. That doesn't really interest me. Now you repeat. Count me in. Enthusiastic agreement. Count me in. Count me in. Now you repeat. Scenario 3. Talking about movies. Entertainment discussions are perfect for practicing opinions. Entertainment discussions are perfect for practicing opinions. Now you repeat. Friend, did you see the new superhero movie? You. Yes, but I'm not really into superhero films. I'm not really into superhero films. Now you repeat. Friend, really? I love the special effects. You. The effects were impressive, but I prefer movies with deeper storylines. I prefer movies with deeper storylines. Now you repeat. Friend, what kind of movies do you like? You. I'm drawn to psychological thrillers and documentaries. I'm drawn to psychological thrillers. Now you repeat. Let's practice more movie opinions. The plot was predictable. Predictable means easy to guess. The plot was predictable. The plot was predictable. Now you repeat. The acting was top-notch. Top-notch means excellent. The acting was top-notch. The acting was top-notch. Now you repeat. It wasn't my cup of tea. We learned this phrase earlier. It wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't my cup of tea. Now you repeat. The movie left me speechless. Shows strong impact. The movie left me speechless. The movie left me speechless. Now you repeat. Scenario 4. Workplace opinions. Professional settings require more formal language. Professional settings require more formal language. Now you repeat. Colleague, what do you think about the new software? You. In my experience, it's more user-friendly than the old system. In my experience, it's more user-friendly. Now you repeat. Colleague. Some people find it confusing. You. I can understand that perspective, but I believe the benefits outweigh the learning curve. I believe the benefits outweigh the learning curve. Now you repeat. Colleague. Should we recommend it to other departments? You. From my point of view, we should wait until we have more data. We should wait until we have more data. Now you repeat. Professional opinion phrases, based on my analysis, shows you've studied something. Based on my analysis. Based on my analysis. Now you repeat. In my professional opinion, formal and authoritative. In my professional opinion. In my professional opinion. Now you repeat. The data suggests that. Objective way to present findings. The data suggests that. The data suggests that. Now you repeat. I'd like to propose that. Formal suggestion. I'd like to propose that. I'd like to propose that. Now you repeat. Scenario 5. Discussing current events. This requires careful, balanced language. This requires careful, balanced language. Now you repeat. Friend, what do you think about the new city transportation plan? You. It's a complex issue with valid points on both sides. It's a complex issue with valid points. Now you repeat. Friend, do you support it? You. I'm somewhat in favour, but I think they need to address the parking concerns. I'm somewhat in favour. Now you repeat. Friend, what about the environmental impact? You. That's definitely a positive aspect that I strongly support. That's a positive aspect I strongly support. Now you repeat. Balanced opinion phrases. There are pros and cons. Shows both sides. There are pros and cons. There are pros and cons. Now you repeat. I'm on the fence about this. Shows uncertainty. I'm on the fence about this. I'm on the fence about this. Now you repeat. It's a double-edged sword, has positive and negative aspects. It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. Now you repeat. The jury is still out. The decision isn't final. The jury is still out. The jury is still out. Now you repeat. Now let's practice quick response drills. I'll give you situations and you can practice the responses. I'll give you situations. Now you repeat. Someone asks, do you like spicy food? Quick responses. I love it. I love it. Now you repeat. Or, it's not really my thing. It's not really my thing. Now you repeat. Someone asks, what's your opinion on remote work? Quick responses. I think it has many benefits. I think it has many benefits. Now you repeat. Or, I prefer working in an office. I prefer working in an office. Now you repeat. Someone asks, how do you feel about social media? Quick responses. It's a useful tool when used properly. It's a useful tool when used properly. Now you repeat. Remember, the key is to practice these phrases until they become automatic. The key is to practice until they become automatic. Now you repeat. Storytelling section. Now let me tell you a story that shows all of these opinion and preference expressions in action. Now let me tell you a story. Now you repeat. This story is about Maria, a Spanish student who just started studying in London. This story is about Maria. Now you repeat. Maria's first week in London. Maria arrived in London on a cold Monday morning. Maria arrived in London on a cold Monday morning. Now you repeat. She had mixed feelings about her new adventure. She had mixed feelings about her adventure. Now you repeat. On her first day, she met her roommate Jenny, who was from Australia. She met her roommate Jenny. Now you repeat. Jenny asked, "What do you think of London so far?" Jenny asked, "What do you think of London so far?" Now you repeat. Maria replied carefully, "It's different from what I expected, but I think I'll like it here. I think I'll like it here." Now you repeat. Jenny smiled and said, "I felt the same way when I first arrived." "What kind of food do you like?" "What kind of food do you like?" Now you repeat. "I'm not a big fan of very spicy food," Maria said, "but I love trying new cuisines." "I love trying new cuisines." Now you repeat. "Perfect," Jenny exclaimed. "There's an amazing Italian restaurant nearby. Are you in the mood for pasta tonight?" "Are you in the mood for pasta tonight?" Now you repeat. Maria thought for a moment. "That sounds wonderful. I have a weakness for good pasta." "I have a weakness for good pasta." Now you repeat. At the restaurant, they continued talking about preferences. At the restaurant, they continued talking. Now you repeat. Jenny asked, "What do you do in your free time back in Spain?" "What do you do in your free time?" Now you repeat. "I'm passionate about photography," Maria answered, "and I enjoy reading historical novels." "I'm passionate about photography." Now you repeat, "That's interesting. I'm more into outdoor activities like hiking and cycling." "I'm more into outdoor activities." Now you repeat. Maria nodded. "I can see the appeal, but I prefer quieter hobbies." "I prefer quieter hobbies." Now you repeat. The next day at university, Maria joined a discussion group about environmental issues. Maria joined a discussion group. Now you repeat. The professor asked, "What's your opinion on electric cars?" "What's your opinion on electric cars?" Now you repeat. Maria raised her hand nervously. "In my opinion, they're a step in the right direction." "They're a step in the right direction." Now you repeat. Another student disagreed. "I'm not sure they're practical for everyone yet." "I'm not sure they're practical for everyone." Now you repeat. Maria responded thoughtfully, "I see what you mean, but I believe the technology will improve over time." "I believe the technology will improve." Now you repeat. The professor smiled. Those are both valid perspectives. What about public transportation? What about public transportation? Now you repeat. From my experience in Madrid, Maria said, efficient public transport systems reduce pollution significantly. Efficient systems reduce pollution significantly. Now you repeat. A British student added, that's exactly what I think too. London's transport system isn't perfect, but it's getting better. London's transport system is getting better. Now you repeat. After class, Maria felt more confident about expressing her opinions in English. Maria felt more confident. Now you repeat. At lunch, she sat with some classmates who were discussing weekend plans. She sat with classmates discussing weekend plans. Now you repeat. There's a new art exhibition at the Tate Modern, said James. Anyone interested? Anyone interested? Now you repeat. I'm definitely up for that, Maria replied enthusiastically. I'm definitely up for that. Now you repeat. What about you, Sarah? James asked. Art galleries aren't really my thing, Sarah admitted, but I might join you anyway. Art galleries aren't really my thing. Now you repeat. You might find this one different, Maria suggested. It seems to me that modern art can be quite engaging. Modern art can be quite engaging. Now you repeat. Sarah considered this. You know what? I have a feeling you might be right. Count me in. Count me in. Now you repeat. Later that evening, Maria called her mother back in Spain. Maria called her mother back in Spain. Now you repeat. How are you finding London, Mija? Her mother asked. How are you finding London? Now you repeat. I'm not sure yet, Maria said honestly, but I think it's going to be a great experience. I think it's going to be great. Now you repeat. What about the food? Do you miss Spanish cuisine? Do you miss Spanish cuisine? Now you repeat. Maria laughed. I do miss paella and tapas, but I'm discovering some amazing international restaurants here. I'm discovering amazing international restaurants. Now you repeat. And the weather, her mother continued. Well, I can't say I'm crazy about the rain, Maria admitted, but the people are incredibly friendly. The people are incredibly friendly. Now you repeat. I'm proud of you for being so open-minded, her mother said. I'm proud of you for being open-minded. Now you repeat. Gracias, Mama. I believe this experience will change me in positive ways. This experience will change me in positive ways. Now you repeat. By the end of her first week, Maria had learnt something important. Maria had learned something important. Now you repeat. Expressing opinions and preferences in English wasn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It wasn't just about grammar and vocabulary. Now you repeat. It was about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and building relationships. It was about connecting with people, Now you repeat. She realized that being polite but honest about her thoughts made conversations more meaningful. Being polite but honest made conversations meaningful. Now you repeat. Whether she was discussing her love for photography or her opinion on environmental issues, the key was authenticity. The key was authenticity. Now you repeat. Maria's story shows us that expressing opinions and preferences isn't about being perfect. It isn't about being perfect. Now you repeat. It's about being genuine, respectful, and open to different viewpoints. It's about being genuine and respectful. Now you repeat. Recap and call to action. What an incredible journey we've had today. What an incredible journey we've had. Now you repeat. Let's quickly review what we learned about expressing opinions and preferences in English. Let's quickly review what we learned. Now you repeat. First, we explored basic preferences using phrases like I like, I love, and I'm not a big fan of. We explored basic preferences. Now you repeat. We learned that I prefer and it's not really my thing sound more natural and polite. They sound more natural and polite. Now you repeat. Then we move to expressing opinions with phrases like I think, in my opinion, and I believe. We move to expressing opinions. Now you repeat. We discovered how to soften our opinions using words like probably, maybe, and perhaps. We learned to soften our opinions. Now you repeat. We practiced agreeing with I totally agree and disagreeing politely with I see what you mean but. We practiced agreeing and disagreeing politely. Now you repeat. In our conversation practice, we use these skills in restaurants, discussing plans, talking about movies, and in professional settings. We use these skills in different situations. Now you repeat. Maria's story showed us how these expressions work in real life to build connections and friendships. These expressions work in real life. Now you repeat. Remember, the goal isn't to memorize every phrase perfectly. The goal isn't to memorize perfectly. Now you repeat. The goal is to communicate your thoughts clearly and respectfully. The goal is to communicate clearly and respectfully. Now you repeat. Here's your homework for this week. Practice expressing one opinion and one preference every day. Practice expressing one opinion and one preference daily. Now you repeat. Start with simple topics like food, weather, or movies. Start with simple topics. Now you repeat. Use the phrases we learned today and don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes. Now you repeat. Every mistake is a step closer to fluency. Every mistake is a step closer to fluency. Now you repeat. If you found this lesson helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Daily Dose of English. Please subscribe to Daily Dose of English. Now you repeat. Your support helps me create more content to help you on your English learning journey. Your support helps me create more content. Now you repeat. Leave a comment below sharing one of your opinions or preferences using the phrases from today's lesson. Share one opinion using today's phrases. Now you repeat. I read every comment and love hearing from you. I read every comment and love hearing from you. Now you repeat. Next week, we'll explore how to give advice and make suggestions in English. Next week, we'll explore giving advice. Now you repeat. Until then, keep practicing, keep expressing your thoughts, and remember, your voice matters in English. Your voice matters in English. Now you repeat.